Today I want to talk about 10 very common grammar mistakes that even native speakers make on a regular basis. Hi, I'm Charlie. Welcome to Organic English. In this session, let's look at 10 common errors people make when writing and some ideas or tips on how to not make those errors. Now, a few of these are to do with contractions, and I want to address this point straight away at the beginning. In IELTS, in TOEFL, in formal academic writing, you should not use contractions. Okay? Contractions, I'm talking about I'll, don't, can't. They all decrease your writing score. If you do not use contractions, your essay will be better. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now the first three of these errors are homophones. So that means they are pronounced the same, but have different meanings. The first one, your and your. Here's an example sentence. Your resume is great. I think you're the perfect candidate for the job. Now, in this case, your, Y-O-U-R, is a possessive pronoun. It shows that something belongs to you. Your pen, your car, your resume. Your, with the apostrophe R-E, is a contraction of you are. Now, a simple way to check if you're using the right version of your is to say the sentence with you are instead. Your resume is great. That doesn't work. So we need to use your, Y-O-U-R. I think you are the perfect candidate for the job. That does work. Now the second common error. It's, apostrophe S, and it's, no apostrophe. Here's an example. This meat is past its expiration date. It's green and smells bad. It's, with no apostrophe, is the possessive word, like his and her, but for nouns with no gender. The meat is past its expiration date. That's the expiration date that belongs to the meat. It's, IT apostrophe S, that's the contraction of it is. It is green. Again, to avoid this error, say your sentence out loud with it is instead. If it sounds strange, it's, ITS, is probably the correct version to write. In this case, the meat is past it is expiration date. Definitely weird. So we should be using ITS, no apostrophe. It is green. That sounds good. Common error number 3. There, and there. Here's an example. I ate all their cookies. They're gonna be angry. I'm gonna hide over there. There, T-H-E-I-R, is the possessive form of they. I ate all their cookies. The cookies belong to them. There, with the apostrophe R-E, always means they are. It's a contraction again. They are going to be angry. And there, T-H-E-R-E, is the most common. It has the word here in it. And this is really helpful because it's often about location. In this example, I'm going to hide over there, not here, there. Now there, T-H-E-R-E, is also used to act as the subject of a sentence, what's known as a dummy subject. There were no cookies left when we got home. Again, to avoid using the wrong version, say your sentence out loud with they are instead. So in the example before, there were no cookies left when we got home. If we substitute they are were no cookies left. Now that sounds really strange. So it's probably there, E-R-E, or there, E-I-R. So the next question to ask yourself, are you talking about a possession, something that belongs to more than one person? If not, you probably need to use there, T-H-E-R-E. Now the next 2 errors are near homophones. So they are spelt differently and have different meanings, but almost sound the same. The 4th common error, loose and lose. Here's an example. If you lose too much weight, your clothes will be loose. Now in this case, lose is a verb, which basically means to not have something anymore. In this case, the excess weight. And loose is an adjective that means something is not tight, not held firmly, not attached. In this case, the clothes are not tight. They don't fit close to the body. Okay, now the 5th common error. Affect, effect. Now, these are two of the most commonly confused words in English. Here's an example using them both. The heat wave didn't affect me much, but it had a devastating effect on my elderly neighbors. Now, in this case, affect is a verb, and it means to influence someone or something or cause them to change. Effect is a noun, and it's a change, a reaction, or result that's caused by something. The heat wave didn't influence me, didn't change me, but it caused a huge change in my neighbors who are old. Okay, moving on. Sometimes we even misuse words or phrases simply because we hear others use them incorrectly. For example, number 6, different than, different from, and different to. Here they are in sentences. Dogs are different from cats. Dogs are different than cats. Dogs are different to cats. Now, which of these is correct? When I was researching this one, I realized that this is actually quite a controversial topic among grammar nerds. I myself, I use different to a lot because it's considered British English. But I also use different from and different than as well, depending on how it's going to sound, the rhythm of the sentence, or the phrase you're about to use. You'll see and hear most people use them interchangeably too when writing and speaking, in books, in dictionaries, wherever. But to cut quite a long story short, the consensus seems to be that it will be safest to write different from when you are in an exam situation, for example, in a situation when your grammar is being judged and scored. So, cats are different from dogs. Emily is completely different from her sister. Okay, number 7. Could've, would've, should've. She could have gone to any college she wanted to. I would have gone to the party, but I was tired. He should have told the truth about what he saw. This is a great example of how difficult it can be to understand a native speaker when they're speaking normally. The correct spelling of these verb phrases is could've, apostrophe VE, would've, apostrophe VE, should've, apostrophe VE. They're contractions of could have, would have, should have. It's just that when we speak, we smush sounds together and it sounds like we're saying could have, would have, should have. Okay, number 8, fewer and less. Here's an example. If fewer people use disposable water bottles, there will be less plastic in landfills. Or, there are fewer cars here on weekends and there's less noise. Can you see the difference between fewer and less in these example sentences? Basically, you use fewer if you can count the number of things: cars, plastic, water bottles. And we use less when we cannot count the things: plastic, noise. These two next points are to do with punctuation. Number 9, using commas in a list. Now, commas are used to separate words and phrases when there are 3 or more of them in a sentence. For example, could you get some milk, bread, and eggs from the grocery store? In this instance, I'm putting a comma before and eggs. Now that is called the Oxford comma or the serial comma. Now, believe it or not, this is another source of controversy. And it seems to be a difference between American and British English. In British English, we generally don't use the Oxford comma. Could you get some milk, bread, and eggs from the grocery store? Notice, no comma before and eggs. Now, how you use commas in a list will depend on the specific writing style you follow, or I suppose that your teacher follows. I don't think it matters which style you use. There are no clear guidelines for IELTS or TOEFL, for example. Keep in mind, whether you are taught to or choose to use the Oxford comma or not, remember that you do need to use commas in a list to separate the items. That's just good punctuation, right? And most importantly, you need to keep your style of punctuation consistent throughout whatever you are writing. Okay, final point, number 10, also to do with punctuation, and that is the improper use of the apostrophe. Here's an example. I'm very serious. You should read Charlie's blog. Basically, you use an apostrophe in 2 cases. For contractions, I am serious becomes I'm serious. Here the apostrophe shows that there is a letter missing. In this case, the A of am. The other situation where you use an apostrophe is to show possession. Charlie's blog. This means the blog belongs to Charlie. But there are 3 different ways to use the possessive apostrophe. So let's take a look at those. Firstly, you use an apostrophe plus S to show that one person or one thing owns or is a member of something. For example, Charlie's blog or Amy's ballet class. Okay, what if the name already ends in S? In this case, it's still correct to add another S to create the possessive form, but it's also acceptable to add only an apostrophe. Let's look at an example to make this clear. Ross's room. You can either just add the apostrophe at the end of Ross or Ross's sports team, in which case you would add an apostrophe S after the name Ross. Now the second way to use the possessive apostrophe is to use an apostrophe after the S at the end of a plural noun to show possession. An example, that is my parents' bedroom, or the Smith's car is outside. And finally, if a plural noun doesn't end in S, add an apostrophe and S to create the possessive form. Here are a couple of examples. The children's room. So more than one child in the room. The Women's March in Washington, D.C. Right, there you go. 10 common errors that even native speakers make all the time. I hope this helps you to avoid these errors. Don't forget, you can also go to www.organicenglish.club, where you'll find plenty of other material to help you become more fluent in English. While you're there, you can also subscribe to my newsletter. Subscribers will get mini lessons, cheat sheets, and video updates direct to their inbox. Thank you very much for watching. Now go out and practice your English.